Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the P1 podcast with Matt and Tommy. Austria happened.
Yeah, what a dull race.
Tommy, what? It was supposed to be an absolute stinker. It
was for a lot of it.
It was set that we were going to have one of those, God, wow, Austria really didn't. Was the sprint better than the main race? We were going to have all those kind of conversations. And then Lando versus Max happened.
Yes, I thought we'd be having a conversation about the Alpines bringing the spice to that race and a few cheeky radio messages and moves. And then Formula One dropped an even bigger chaos bomb. Probably the biggest chaos bomb. I think we were chatting about this beforehand. I've not felt like this after a race since like 2021 in terms of like, this is so dramatic. We have not had something like this in so long. It is one of those days where imagine not liking F1 because oh my word. I set the baby alarm off from shouting so loudly at the TV. Yeah, crazy.
It was absolutely ridiculous. Of course, we'll post our reaction stuff over on P1 Extra and all that sort of stuff for you to enjoy as well. Because if you don't watch us on Twitch, firstly, where were you? But secondly, it was energetic. Now, before we dive into the main podcast, we are going on tour in the USA and Canada. Tickets will be on sale from Monday, so make sure you grab them. Of course, this is probably going out on Sunday, so if you are a Patreon member, you'll be able to get those tickets right now. But we're very excited to go to America and Canada, aren't we, Tommy? It's going to be... I mean, we'll have some things to talk about.
I was about to say, when we first started organising a tour, it was probably like, we're like, oh yeah, it would still be amazingly good fun, as it always is. We did our live shows after 2023, but boy, what a season this is turning out to be. We have got a lot of spice to deliver.
Absolutely. Now, we're both having the same memorable moment in this one because we got to get. Well, actually, I could easily make one about Charles Leclerc. I always could. But it's everyone's most memorable moment. We're going to dive straight into it because we're not going to mess around. Verstappen versus Norris. I don't know where to begin. It's been so many years since we've had such a contentious collision that,
I've never had a million things to say and also don't know what to say.
Well, let's start with the first question, and it comes in from N33_Emma. Who was at fault? Max or Lando? Max Verstappen was at fault. Absolutely, categorically, no debate from my side, at least, when we are talking about that particular incident. I will say that I don't think it was a horrendous thing that Max did. I think it was rather unfortunate, but it was also Max's fault. He was playing with fire a few laps before that. They were running off the track. There was squeezing. There was late moves, which we will get onto as well, because I'm not happy about that with what Max was doing, and he denied that he was doing anything wrong in the car in the post-race interview, which I found very interesting. But more specifically to this incident, the crash, it was just a wheel bang that gave both of them punctures and changed the entire complexion of the race. That could have easily just been a bounce and they carried on for another 5 laps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, the guy sat here in a Netherlands football shirt with a Max Verstappen flag behind him is probably thinking, I'm going to say Lando's at fault, but no, it was definitely Max's fault. He moved over. It wasn't an incredibly dirty move. Some of his others were questionable, but the one that actually put Lando out the race and put Max down the order was probably the most nothing incident of the lot, really, because there were so many contentious moments where before that you had maybe a bit of a late move. Max even at one point let Lando push him off so he could stay ahead to maybe get the stewards to go, oh, has he been forced off? Otherwise, which is ironically exactly what he did to Charles Leclerc in 2019 that we spoke about on our Patreon. But that move, it was really unfortunate because it so easily could have just been a little bump on the wheels. But what I will say is that this was happening with so many laps to go. I didn't think they'd crash, but it really did feel like, well, how long can this keep going on for? Because it was just lap after lap where Norris got an amazing run, and just it was just happening every lap, and you just thought, like, what extent is Verstappen going to go to stop this happening? And the answer was move over, and they both get puncture.
Yes, as we said, I don't think it was anything nasty, or I think it's more just a slight misjudgment from Max's side. You know, when you look at the incident, he's sort of squeezing Lando onto the exit curb ever so slightly, which is not technically a car's width because the track is that white line. So yeah, I'm not going to be too harsh on Max in this particular incident, but there were some that could have caused a massive crash, which didn't, which I think we'll probably get into shortly. Next question, P1 Patreon member, Lumixion. Has Max become unfamiliar with genuine pressure from another driver? Has being in such a dominant position with his skill and car dulled his racecraft? Now, I love Lumixion, one of our GOAT Twitch viewers. However, no. He's not unfamiliar with genuine pressure. I don't think his racecraft has changed at all. The discussion that we've had, which we haven't really been able to measure until now perhaps, is since 2021, has Max become a more calm, composed driver behind the wheel because he's in a championship winning car, because he's got the fastest car? Has he thought, okay, I'm going to be a bit more of a Lewis Hamilton here, a little bit more calculated and not maybe risk the car? The answer, which I think a lot of people did think anyway, is that he hasn't changed one bit, and that he will fight tooth and nail to the very last lap, to the edge of the rules, and sometimes beyond, to make sure he wins the race. That's what makes him one of the best drivers to ever grace a racetrack, but it will also cost him some victories, and that's what's happened today, because he had to fight as aggressively as he did, otherwise Lando was going through and winning that race. So I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but that's what Max does. And that's why drivers fear him.
Yeah, it is. We had ironically a conversation yesterday about how I thought that Verstappen kind of had Lando in his back pocket a little bit and could just kind of toy with him and whatever. But here it showed that Max had to give it absolutely everything and more. You know, he was as aggressive, if not as much, as he was with Lewis Hamilton in 2021. He was defending like it was the 2021 World Championship. And that just shows that you say what you like about, oh, he's matured. Well, he has matured a lot, but in terms of like, will he still drive like this when he has to? Absolutely. And I think it's even more extreme because there's not, it's too early to say there's not a title battle, but he's got a 70-point lead. It's not, and maybe it's another discussion of like, maybe he is a little bit worried that McLaren seemingly had the best car again, even after qualifying, when we said, oh, it's over, like, how are we back to this? Or like the McLaren is incredibly quick. McLaren could have won the last 5 or 6 races now. It's crazy. And Max had to give it absolutely everything. It is really fascinating that I thought that maybe after 2021 and how incredibly close it was, and the incidents that he had, you know, say with like Lewis Hamilton, that was obviously like Hamilton's fault by the stewards of Silverstone, and the fact that maybe he reflects on the end of the year and goes, well, if I'd just given Lewis P1, I'd finish P2, I'd win the championship easily, it's absolutely fine. Clearly that is not the case. He has shown today that Max Verstappen would rather finish 5th and end up with a puncture and take you out the race than he would to give an inch to anyone to win the race. He does not want to settle for second because there were so many laps left. It really felt like that battle. He couldn't have maintained that surely for 10 laps, because every single lap it was so marginal. Every single move was controversial. Like every incident that Lando went for a move, it was either a questionable defending, it was going off track, it was wheel banging. Like, it wasn't like it was just like, oh, I could do it here. I could hold on. It's worth it. It felt like he was never going to be able to hold him off, and that's why he had to go to such extreme measures. But it's crazy that apparently 70 points in the lead still is happy to drive like that.
Well, I think it's testament to his character and the way he's been brought up that he, I mean, through some very questionable parenting, as we've heard, is literally ingrained in him that he has to win, no matter what. Like, otherwise he's letting his father down or whoever. He has to win. And I wouldn't even say it's that he's worried about McLaren. He is just there every time he's on a track to do the absolute best, no matter what. And as I say, that's what makes him such a fearsome driver on track. And some drivers don't even bother trying to go for a move. But I think we can now squash.
He's set that precedent, hasn't he? It's a conversation that we had, and we've had many times, that when he didn't have a dominant car, he would make these moves that's like, get out the way, I'm crashing. And Ayrton Senna did this. Ayrton Senna was a bit before my time, but you can see it in the Senna documentary. It's spoken about. It's spoken about that Ayrton Senna had this reputation of, I'm coming through, and if you don't let me through, we're crashing. So it's up to you. And Max Verstappen has taken that exact philosophy into his driving. And that is why someone like Lando Norris, until today and this year, had that reputation of, oh, he always just like lets Max by and he doesn't want to race him. Well, that's definitely been squashed now because, oh my word.
I did find it very interesting after the race, listening to some of the post-race interviews, because I wanted to get a feel and a gauge of how each team were going to channel their messaging of what happened between the two of them. And Andrea Stella, who I thought might have been a little bit, I don't know, I just feel as though he's not the most
more of a chill guy,
forthcoming with sort of aggressive opinions. But he said, look, this has not been addressed, basically, to sort of shorten what he says, is that Max has done things like this in 2021, and sometimes it's been swept under the rug or not really dealt with, and it's going to come back. And it did come back. And once again, he's doing that exact same kind of maneuvers.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting point, because you set a precedent with how you know, Max's driving has never... You look at Max's career, and he's done a lot of these kind of maneuvers, and it's like, well, I've won 60-odd races, I've won world championships, so like, I'll carry on driving like this, thank you very much. And until it's like stamped out, they try and do things, but he will always bend the rules. And it's actually quite funny that there was a late move, which I think was very questionable from Max when Lando did the dive bomb initially. It was a move that actually got kind of dubbed the Verstappen move way back in like 2016 or whatever, that they were trying to cut down on people doing like a late move when someone's already committed. And he did that. And as soon as he did it, and we were discussing on Twitch, is he going to get a penalty or not? I was like, no, because Ocon did it 10 laps earlier and they didn't do anything about it. And even incidents when it's other drivers, as soon as you set that boundary, particularly someone like Max Verstappen will just go, well, I'll do it then. Like, until there is some kind of punishment to make the risk versus reward, it's calculated. He's like, well, he even bent the rules going around the outside of Lando when because he knows that he backs off, Lando makes that move, Lando stayed on the track, it's probably a fair move and it's done. Max keeps his foot in, goes around the outside, and he can then have the argument of, oh, I've been forced off the track. Like, it's all calculated to basically give the stewards a tough time. And for all the complaining that I just said about the stewards, I wouldn't want to be a steward trying to make these decisions with someone like Max Verstappen, because he is Schumacher-like and Senna-like in the fact that he will do everything within the rules and more to do whatever he can to win, and it's shown it today.
He certainly has. He certainly has. Yes, you brought up some other points there. There was one where Lando obviously went down the inside. He was staying on the track, and maybe half the field of drivers would have tried to hang it round the outside, bounced over the exit curb, lost the position, and Lando would have taken the lead. But instead, Max basically realised very quickly, oh, it's not a lot of room out here. Let me accelerate and make sure I get the best run ever and actually stay ahead of Lando. And then, as you say, have that argument. If for whatever reason, well, I say whatever reason, but if the stewards look into it, then they can say, well, look, well, Red Bull can say, well, this happened 5 times in the race earlier. People have been going off and coming back on. And because I remember literally watching doing the watch along and going, okay, that happened 10 laps ago with Ocon and Gasly or whoever it was. What did the stewards do then? And they didn't do
anything,
F all, I don't think. But I do like that to a degree. I want them to race. I want them to be aggressive with each other. And I love that Max takes things to the extreme because well, apart from obviously the late moves that can cause a crash, but the ones where he's just thinking on his feet and trying to the absolute limit to make sure we get as close racing as possible and for Max to stay ahead. That was amazing to watch. Because if Max just let him through, we wouldn't be talking about this.
Yeah, so true. Love him or hate him. My God, like I challenge any Formula One fan to say they didn't enjoy that that battle because
Lando's Norris fans may
true,
one or two things.
But it was quite incredible to watch. It was like being in 2021 again, and it feeling like everything's on the line here. It was quite crazy.
7 Francis B7 asks, with the fight at the front closer, should we expect to see more of old aggressive Max, otherwise known as Max? Will we see more of Max? Yes, I think so. Yeah, for sure. He will not change. He won't change. If he's 50 points behind in the championship, if he's 50 points ahead in the championship, if he's just on the track, he will be trying everything in his power. If there are rules that are put in to stop this from happening, then of course Max will have to be less aggressive. Otherwise, he's going to get penalties all the time. But I don't think that's going to happen somehow. It's not going to change. But as we just said, my God, does it make it entertaining?
It really does. It's a tough, it's maybe a different debate to this question, but it is a tough call for the stewards because as a Formula One fan, we're watching the stewards, and this goes again to saying I wouldn't want to be the stewards in this situation because you're watching these incredible drivers battling and giving it everything and doing questionable moves, and Norris had a track limit penalty and stuff. A black and white flag before the incident. We'll get into this later, but we were going on the Twitch like, oh, just let them race, just let it happen. But the stewards also have to make sure they're not breaking the rules. But then they are the party poopers if they say, well, Max, you're getting a 20-second penalty, and we go, oh, the race is well done, you've killed the race, like this is boring. Or same with Lando's move where he went off and then that was the track limit warning and oh, just let it go. We want to see them keep fighting. Like there's that weird line of like, don't ruin this, let them go at it, but you also need to police it, particularly when it's someone like Max Verstappen who will do everything to make and more.
It's a fine line, isn't it, between entertainment and actual sport? Like it has to be sporting. We have to make sure we follow rules here because it is a championship and we're trying to crown a winner. But interesting. Next question, Rabbi Math. Is it enough to just give a time penalty to Max? He finished and got championship points. Norris didn't. I'm not sure exactly what Rabbi is suggesting here. This is an on-track moment.
You can't take consequences.
Well, exactly. We can't say that. Oh well, actually no, Max. You have also DNF'd because you caused that DNF with Norris. That would be wild. So you have to. We hear it all the time, don't we? Oh, Silverstone 2021. Should Hamilton have gotten a 12-week race ban? All this sort of stuff because Max went into the wall. It has to be like this. We can't change it, and I don't think you should change it because it would open even a bigger can of worms if you then take every consequence that ever happened. It just wouldn't work. So this is the way it has to be for me.
Yeah, 100%. You can't take consequence into it. Even, it hurt for Max Verstappen fans or whatever to see that there was an incident, say like 2021, Hamilton goes on to win the race, but you can't then just go, oh, he's won now. Actually, that's not very fair. Let's disqualify him. Like, that's not how sport works. You get a penalty, unless you're deliberately like ramming someone off on purpose and going, well, unless you're Kevin Magnussen at Miami and go 10-second penalties, I'll take them, thanks very much, and you're kind of manipulating it in that sense. It's not really a thing. But one thing that was quite interesting is that Norris, his 5-second penalty that he got, he was actually classified, and if he wasn't classified, his 5-second penalty would have potentially carried over to the next race or something, and there would have been there could have been something there or something. So, but because it got added on,
you wouldn't take a 5-second into the next race. It would be
the penalty. If you don't serve it, there's rules or something that you can.
I'm not sure if that would be linked with track limits. I don't think he would take something into the next race if it was a track limit violation. I'm not sure about that one. I think if it's crashing...
I saw people on Twitter, like journalists, discussing that he was classified and the 5 seconds got added onto his classified time.
Right.
So there's no kind of worry about that, whatever's like any extending of penalties, basically.
Interesting. Well, yeah, he would never take a 5-second penalty into a next race. That doesn't, you don't carry.
Yeah,
it over,
but I don't know what the rules are if they could convert it to a
something.
grid drop or things like that.
I mean, that would have been wild. Let's get into that because that is the next question. Smegmatje. The accident was completely Verstappen's fault, but could this be avoided if the stewards were faster in handing out penalties for Verstappen's moving under braking and or Norris's track limits? Now, we were very, very close to that battle kind of having a quite anticlimactic ending because that incident happened and I'm pretty sure about 10, 15 seconds later, Lando Norris got a 5-second penalty for track limits. And can you imagine the uproar from everybody on social media to have that battle potentially ruined by this penalty that's been handed out to Lando? Yes, there might have still been an interesting thing had Lando got through and tried to extend a 5-second gap, last lap Lando, part 2, whatever it might have been. But we were so close to that not happening, and then Lando being told you got a 5-second penalty, and then there would have been this whole, any point of even trying to make the move. So, but that specifically, Lando got his. My understanding is Lando got that final track limit warning for battling Verstappen, and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I hate that rule.
I'm really not sure.
It comes back to the Piastri thing that I said yesterday. Like, and this is a really extreme example, but there seems to be this new law that people think that if you go off track, you're like, it's a slam dunk. You've got to stay on the track. Otherwise, floor is lava. You should be thrown out the World Championship because it's the worst thing ever, apparently, if you go off now. Whereas, if you're doing like a lap time and it's raining and you're 20 seconds clear going into the final corner and you run wide, you go through the gravel, you come back on track and you finish the lap, like, should you be allowed to finish that lap? In my opinion, yes, because you've not gained an advantage. It's a mistake. You've gone off. And there seems to be this new thing of like, you can't go off the track. Like, no, you can't go off the track. And like, how is Lando going off the track when he got pushed wide by Verstappen a track limit penalty? That's not a track limit violation. A track limit violation is Lando going wide into a corner, taking 10 miles an hour through, one corner to get a great slingshot run, and that's when you're gaining a track limit. I don't like this. I don't like this rule of like it being as soon as you're off the track, like naughty boy.
You get a warning. Like they're very black and white with this. Although it did say it was noted, and then under investigation, then he gets a penalty. Surely the investigation part is he's not just on his own lapping, runs wide, gains some time. That's the warning. That's what that is for. We don't want to be handing out track limit violations when you could argue that Verstappen was pushing Norris wide. Therefore, it's Max's fault that Lando's gone wide.
Yeah, because that probably was his
Lando's
strategy.
Getting the warning.
Knowing Max, it probably was his strategy.
Yeah, you just shove him wide like 3 or 4 times. And, cheers, mate. There's your 5-second penalty. I've won the race. Just bizarre to me that they gave him that penalty. So I don't agree with that at all. I think that Formula One is and should be black and white in many, many rulings. But that one should be for gaining time. Now, I'm not. I still think that it should be black and white in the sense of you're saying, Piastri went off the track, we didn't gain any time. That's where you open up a can of worms once again of well, how far do we go with this? Where do they gain time? Where do they not? So I still think that should be black and white, but the stewards should have a brain and go, well, these two are battling. We're going to investigate this. Lando did not gain time, therefore not a track limit warning. How is it nothing other than that? I don't get it.
Yeah, one thing I would say is maybe controversially, because we all love to have a go at the stewards, is I don't think they did a particularly bad job this weekend. I wouldn't watch that race and go, oh, they were so slow. We've had moments in Formula One where incidents happen on the lap one, and they go, we're going to investigate that after the race. They seemed quite quick with it, and they're never going to be able to do it in 3 seconds because they do need to judge it. Now, so for example, like Norris, when he was investigated, it is going to take a bit of time. However, that still would have been very interesting had they not collided to see how that would have played out. Because even with the 5-second penalty, does Max, I think we all know the answer to this, does Max let Lando
You're
go?
going to say let him through? No.
Not let him go, but be less aggressive.
No.
And think, yeah, well, yeah, but it's a debate. It's a debate.
There's no debate. That is a categorical no. What have we been talking about him and his character for the last 20 minutes?
But yeah, Max knows he's got a penalty. How different is his driving? But
not at all.
Yeah, not at all.
That's my opinion on it. It's literally Max Verstappen. Okay, next question. P1 Patreon member CC Hollister. Friendship over? I think it's going to be an interesting one how they iron this out. It's funny to see the different personalities play out. Lando not funny, but like it's interesting. Yeah. Lando in his post-race interview could tell really disappointed, probably upset, speaking quite openly about how the respect has sort of gone from this, of course, in some ways, and that the way that they would rebuild that is if Max admitted fault and said, look, yeah, I could have driven better. You then go to Max's interview and he's like, well, I didn't do anything wrong. Would you it's all well and good ex-F1 drivers analysing from outside the car. I know what I'm doing inside the car. And then he kind of played it off quite casually of, yeah, we'll have a chat with Lando and that sort of stuff. So I think that just shows the two kind of personalities where Max doesn't see it as a big thing at all. Lando's like, I've just lost my second race win and would need that sort of admittance from Max that he did do something wrong. So I do wonder if once Max looks at the off-boards and analyses those last sort of 15 laps, whether he will be like, fair enough, yeah, I did go over the line a little bit in private.
No chance. Again, this is another thing. I don't think it's in Max's character to ever admit that he'd done something wrong. I don't think he will ever flat out go, yeah, Lando, I'm sorry. It's part of his persona. It's part of the Senna thing again of like, don't mess with me. I am the boss. You will get taken out the race if you dare overtake me. Like, it's all part of his ruthless character, like a Michael Schumacher, that makes other drivers scared of him and shows weakness. Whether I think that is the right way to be, no, but you can't really argue with the results and how Max Verstappen's career is going. So I don't think it's friendship over. I don't think that's literally like the Hamilton-Rosberg moment. But what it has shown is that exactly what we said, as soon as these two start racing and they have a level playing field, it's not all going to be, oh, should we go on Twitch together and have a race? Like, no, like that ends when you start having a world championship battle with someone. And they can be civil to each other and maybe even still, they'll still get on to a point, I think, but it's not going to, I don't know how they're going to be as pally if this is the new trend of like how good McLaren are. And this, the most exciting thing is this probably won't be the last time because McLaren are damn quick.
They certainly are, although we're coming into this race, we didn't think it was going to be. I think Red Bull genuinely showed in this race that they are the quickest, but they were tripping over themselves a little bit with the slow pit stop, and they weren't working very well in that last stint where Max was thinking that there was something wrong with the car. But I think overall, I know that obviously Lando was all over the back of Max, but I think that was just that stint, and Red Bull sort of opened up the vulnerabilities there with the slow pit stop and stuff. But
McLaren
it's
is so
very close.
good on that medium tyre as well. Like they always seem to be.
They weren't good on the first stint of mediums, though, were they? With the heavy fuel.
Yeah, but when it got to true. But like the qualifyings and stuff, so light fuel on the mediums, McLaren comes into its own. And one thing about the pit stop, actually included, but you mentioned about the pit stop and how would Max have just won easily without the pit stop if he'd had a normal pit stop. I don't think that was the case because Lando is absolutely rapid. Like he caught him up and was fighting him lap after lap after lap. It wasn't like one of those things where you've got one chance, you've got DRS, and as soon as you lose DRS, it's game over. He could have basically gone for moves for the rest of the race against Verstappen, and he would have been catching him, no doubt, in my opinion. I actually think Max's outbraking, the way he had the lockup going through is it turn 4? Which, my word, I thought he was in the gravel then. I thought that was game over for Max. Was more of a thing that helped Lando catch up than the pit stop, if anything.
Well, the pit stop was slow. It was 6.5 seconds.
It was slow,
and
but
I'm pretty sure it was even slower than the 6.5 seconds suggests, because it was like 2 seconds or whatever it was when they came out the pits. Max, 2.5, 3 seconds. Then Max obviously made that lockup, which put it down to, I think, 1.8, and then Lando just caught him very, very quickly after that and was very quickly in DRS. It's interesting, yeah. I think Lando would have caught him.
But
I don't
maybe
think it would have been as quickly.
Yeah,
I don't think it would have been as quickly as perhaps the battle suggests. Lando was quicker. Don't get me wrong.
Could have been an inverse situation, maybe.
I also think that with Austria, once you're in the DRS and you've got some decent pace, you can sort of sit there and it's a short lap. As long as you don't lose a second, you get DRS again down the main straight into turn 1, and then all the way up the hill as well, and then
it's DRS everywhere, isn't there? The funniest thing you say about that, though, is the fact that we saw a prime example of that Verstappen literally couldn't shake the Hasses off behind him because they could just sit in his DRS. And the Hasses were could just stay behind Max and follow him. And he at one point came on the radio, didn't he, and was like, I can't shake off these cars.
I know, it's wild, wasn't it? How some of the slower cars but at pit were just as quick as the leaders.
Yeah.
But yes, it is 3 DRS zones. Sorry, I'm a little bit hungover. It's my birthday yesterday.
I was going to say, but a Red Bull fighting a Haas is a different drive, which we'll speak about now.
Ooh, okay. Let's get into
unless there's anything else. I think we've covered everything on that. It almost feels like you could go on for 2 hours about it, but
you certainly could.
Still not over it. I don't think I'll ever be over it.
No, and I'm sure we'll have many other things that will come into our brain as we go through this podcast. But P1 Patreon member Snowborn asks, how can Max drive a lap on 3 wheels, get a 10-second penalty, and still finish ahead of Perez? By 17 seconds, I think it was.
Yep.
As well.
Yeah. Because Perez is arguably in the worst form of his entire career right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It's sad to watch. He's fighting the Hasses. He's fighting the Hasses for a point and losing. He lost the last lap battle with Hulkenberg for P6, I think it was. It's at a stage now where we talk about it every single time. Perez's seat, blah 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 blah. But it can't go under the radar. He's in the championship constructors winning car, and would have finished over a minute probably behind Max had he not. It would have been on the verge of probably getting lapped had that whole battle with Lando not happened. It's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. But it is a carbon copy of last year. Maybe Perez is only good at 3 tracks. It's all at the start of the year.
You say that. I saw a very interesting graphic or tweet where someone showed the gap of where Perez was in relation to Max, and the first few races he is still 20, 30 seconds off, but the problem was Max was 30 seconds in the lead, so Perez could be second, rather than now the Red Bull is very much in the clutches of McLaren. That that 30 seconds now equates to him being behind both Ferraris, both both McLarens, both Mercedes, and he's there battling eighth. But I think it's inexcusable that he's racing a Haas. You know, forget him finishing the worst of Formula A. The fact he's racing a Haas, it's shocking.
It really is.
And actually, he got repassed by Hulkenberg.
Yeah, on the last lap, he lost the battle.
Really embarrassing.
He overtook him into turn 3, and then Hulk got him back. And yeah, it's just I don't get it. I really don't get it. And I do wonder if what Red Bull are going to do, because it's a carbon copy situation out of Albon and Gasly, if not worse. It's just the problem was Red Bull weren't a championship winning car when those two drivers that paired Max were there. So therefore, Max qualifying second or third or doing great in the car would mean they would then qualify 13th, 14th or whatever it might be, because they still lacked that deficit to Max, but their blemishes weren't sort of saved because it looked worse, or their blushes weren't saved. Either or, a phrase. So yeah, it's... I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
There's nothing else to say about it, is it? We will have this conversation every single race
another
until
16 times before the end of the year.
Yeah, and then what do they do? They've already committed to another year. Feels like he will be locked in no matter what. But that Red Bull is falling back into the pack, and if for whatever reason, I said McLaren could have won the last 5 or 6 races now. A lot of races to go. Piastri's really looking very quick as well. Obviously, Lando is doing Lando things and being very quick. So I know we had the Constructors' Championship chat with Ferrari, but McLaren, I think it is very, very doable.
We will see. Definitely not Ferrari, maybe. We'll get on to them shortly. Before we dive into anything else, I just wanted to mention that we are going to be live at Silverstone on Sunday at 11 a.m. We're going to be on the main stage for 40 minutes rather than 25 minutes of last year, which is absolutely ridiculous. We'd love to see as many of you as possible. So Sunday, 11 a.m. on the main stage, me and Tommy chatting some Formula One. And what a way to have teed up potentially some chats that we've got to have on stage, because it is literally the next race at the British Grand Prix next weekend. Very exciting. If, of course, you see either of myself or Tommy at the British Grand Prix of Silverstone, please come and say hello. We'd love to speak to you, because we do love meeting the people that listen to our waffle. So let's move on now to a great question. Martin Amakwa asks, is Ciao from Gasly the coldest radio message ever? So we didn't actually hear the audio. It was just a written transcript, wasn't it, of just Ciao that came up. Not the coldest. That was Sainz in Singapore.
Oh, yeah,
100%. But this was close. This made me laugh so much. We're watching it on Twitch. We're Ocon and Gasly. They were carrying the Austrian Grand Prix at that point. We thought that was going to be the battle that we would speak about for about 20 minutes. But alas, it wasn't. But it was great to watch those two. It's the pure hatred that you can just see between the two of them. They're just battling left, right, and centre. They don't care about the team. They are just there to beat each other, and it's great to watch. You got Gasly coming over the radio when he's pushed off the track. What's he doing? What the FC? Blah blah blah. But they do like each other, according to Alpine, and they do get on.
And what is funny as well is that at one point you had Fernando Alonso in there as well, another driver that's had some beef with Ocon. So you had Ocon literally probably not knowing who he hates more, Gasly or Alonso, and who do I defend here? Because he made a very questionable move on Fernando Alonso, which Alonso
I would actually say with that one,
wow.
I would actually say on that, I don't think it probably changed the outcome. But do you feel as though, obviously, Ocon's late move on Alonso going up towards turn 3 had any bearing on the stewards not making any decisions?
That's what I said. That's
Max?
what I said earlier. Yeah, 100%. They set the precedent of Max would have been very they could have given Max a penalty for his late move. I think it was very borderline. He might have just got away with it because it didn't look as aggressive as Ocon. But as soon as they decided that the Esteban Ocon move was okay, they can't do anything. Like, and Red Bull would argue that all day. Like, they have basically. I know Max wouldn't have known unless it's Max being Max.
Might be watching
it
the
on the
TV.
telly. Yeah, exactly. Max could have done that and been absolutely fine because they've already said, no, you can do a ridiculously late move, almost get someone off the track. And that's what Ocon did to Alonso. And then, it's great to see Gasly and Ocon having the little battle. They had a bit of a wheel bang moment. Funny enough, they had the odd moment where they pushed each other wide. Their incident, actually, where they had a little wheel bang, so could have easily been what happened with Lando and Max, like we said at the start of the show, that could have so easily just been a little wheel tap, carry on for round 7.
What the F was that?
Exactly.
Roll the team radio out, because they were both proper, like Lando going blah 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 blah, Max on the radio going blah 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 blah, and you could just tell they were just constantly like, oh, I'm going to get a penalty for that maybe. So let me just say something on the radio to make sure that they're aware of my thoughts on the situation. But yes, back to Ocon and Gasly. It's great to watch those two. Anytime you see those two on track together, because they are so closely matched, you just know it's going to be absolute cinema.
Yeah. Drive to Survive were probably like, oh yes, hello. Gasly and Ocon. Yeah. Oh, hello. Throw that script in the bin. We've got Lando and Max now.
I think we've got an episode here. Oh, yeah. Put that one in the incinerator.
They probably wrote a whole episode and then went, delete.
That
Lando
will have a 5-second montage, and that's it.
Yes.
Fantastic content probably coming our way next season when that launches. Next question, Luke Loophole. Without the quali penalty for Piastri, do you think he would have taken the win? Yes. Categorically, I think. He would have been in the mix. He would have been right up there. And that's, I think, why he was so down at finishing second place after inheriting a podium that he was never going to get. It's a tough pill to swallow, because Piastri lost those places because of going off the track by 1 millimetre, and however you feel about that, that's unfortunately what he was given. And then you even look at the race, you think, small moments, maybe when Piastri tried to go around the outside of Perez, had that not happened and he lost a few seconds, and that would have been the amount of time that he was behind George Russell that he lost. So you do think about these small moments that I'm sure Oscar was looking back in his head going, if that just went slightly better or whatever. So it will happen for Oscar, but it just wasn't really the weekend that he finished second, but it's not the weekend it could have been for him.
Yeah, it must be very tough. Like, it clearly dawned on him, didn't it? After when he was in the cool down room, you could see it on his face that he was just going, that 1 millimetre.
It's just when a slower car beats you, you just go, well, I could have won the race. That's probably what he's thinking of, like.
And all drivers, I can't remember what the race was where Carlos Sainz was like, oh, we would have won if this would have happened, and we were kind of joking that every driver went as soon as Max has like a day off. I can't remember which race that was.
Was that Lando?
Was it Miami? I think it was Miami, actually.
It was.
Where every single driver goes, that should have been me.
We were like, all right, Carlos. I'm not sure
exactly. But this is a genuine one. Like, Piastri had great pace, saw that in the sprint as well. Was a lot better on his tyres, has to be said. Wasn't falling off at the end. When he got, this is something that won't ever be mentioned now because of the incident with Max and Lando. But we almost, I thought we were having a battle for the win when he made that move on Sainz. He was on the mediums, Russell on the hards.
For the win,
got down to 2 for
the
win to fight Russell, who we should probably say well done, George Russell, because there were no questions about him.
You won the race
because he just inherited a win, but you have to be there. You have to be there, This could be another 40-minute podcast if I go into what I think about George Russell and how he's one of the most confusing drivers in terms of like how he's perceived and judged his ability, because anyone else that 9-1 in qualifying, whatever it is with Hamilton or whatever, who's statistically the GOAT, would be getting absolutely lauded. But people think he's a bit of a bottle job, don't they?
Well, it's when most of those people are probably in the Team LH camp, so it's a hard thing to combat against because there's a very large fan base for Lewis. So of course they're going to jump to his defence. But yeah, George Russell, just there. He was saying he was kind of watching on the TV screens, just wondering, oh, those two could definitely come together and something might open up, and that's exactly what happened. So
he's got the win
it
again.
Hasn't happened
it's
that
him
much.
Again.
Yeah, it's him again, and also it doesn't happen that much because we've had a car dominating, and we've not had an instant like this since 2021. But George Russell was driving a great race, and his teammate Hamilton picked up some floor damage apparently at turn 1. I didn't actually see that, but that's what was communicated. But still, George kept his nose clean and beat a McLaren that was definitely quicker on the day, and you can't really take anything away from him. He's now won another race.
No, like he's obviously fortunate with the way it's gone with Lando and Max, but like you say, you have to be there. And at the end of the day, he's beaten Piastri, Sainz, Hamilton on the road, who are in very similar, if not identical, cars to him in terms of pace. So, well done, George.
Well done, George, indeed. And also a big well done to Charles Leclerc doing a last to 11th place challenge. I think he was robbed, actually, of not getting driver of the day.
So
Lando
close to a point.
did, in fact, get driver of the day. Yeah, Ferrari's forecast for Charles to get a point. I don't really want to talk about it, to be honest with you, because that was a disaster from quite literally turn 1, where he got pincered by two cars. Was it Perez and I think it was Piastri? And then losing his front wing, and then he's just absolutely effed, like completely and utterly finished at that point. Had to pit for another set of hards, goes on the hards, realises, oh my God, these are horrendous. Then has to pit on like lap 16 or whatever it was. He got overtaken by Alex Albon, which was quite possibly one of the worst things I've ever watched.
I know. There's a meme.
It.
There's a meme somewhere of us doing the P1 Extra video of championship back on, can Leclerc win the championship, and then a few moments later, an Alex Albon diving down the inside of him for P19.
Or the screenshot of him being 69 seconds behind Max Verstappen after about however many laps it was. So, yeah, good. Don't really want to touch on it anymore. I just don't think that he can get any unluckier as a driver. And we'll move on to the next one.
Well, yeah, if it makes you feel any better, it will literally never be remembered and no one else will be talking about it because of the absolute chaos bomb that race was.
I do like it whenever you start, when we're talking about Leclerc and something going wrong for him, and then you go, if it makes you feel any better, I know for a fact whatever you say after that is not going to make me feel any better, and you're on 100% streak of that still. So congratulations, Tommy. Right, we move on to biggest winner, and I think it might be George Russell. I think George Russell might have been the biggest winner here from everything that went on. So that's what I'm going to go with.
Or Haas. Haas are a good shout. 6th
Come
and
on,
8th, brilliant performance.
They didn't collide with each other in Monaco. Like that was the last time I wore it, and then the time after that was
great result for Haas. Great result for Nico Hülkenberg. I think he is showing
Perez.
Beating Perez again, showing that he is a driver that deserves a better Formula One car, and I do hope that Audi can deliver that for him, and when we see him get like that he can just do something with a good car, because he really is a good driver.
He really is, and I think shout out to Magnussen as well. There was 6 seconds between the two of them. They both performed very, very well. Daniel Ricciardo scored 2 points, which needs to also be commended. Obviously, he gained that through the incident that happened. Actually, no,
I completely forgot about. There's so much drama in this race. Kevin Magnussen saying "F that" when they told him to basically not race Hülkenberg. we were treated some absolute drama today. Like,
sorry, Daniel Ricciardo scoring 2 points as well has gone completely under the radar.
It has.
In an RB tractor. Alpine, of course, scoring another point with Gasly. And Tsunoda was down in 14th with a lap down, but I have no idea what happened to Tsunoda. I don't have a clue.
Did he not get a penalty? Am I making that up? I feel like did he get a penalty for something? I'm sure he went off at one point and got a penalty.
There was quite a lot of penalties.
There's a lot of penalties, and I don't think anyone will kind of begrudge us that all my brain is thinking right now is, oh my God, Lando Norris and Verstappen have crashed into each other. This is
Quite
the most-
literally.
Yeah.
And also Fernando Alonso finished 18th. Just want to throw that one in there as well.
Yeah, you can have that one.
But fastest lap, so we'll get onto that shortly. Biggest loser, Lando Norris. It has to be. Lando's lost not only the race win, but lost more points to Max Verstappen in the title. So for me, it has to be Lando.
Yeah, Lando Norris again coming out of a race weekend. I don't think it's his fault. I don't think it's his fault like the last one where we were kind of saying, you know, this is one that he should have won, definitely. But through two very different moments, actually, he could quite easily have won the sprint and the race and got maximum points. But he has come away with, almost nothing.
It's mad, isn't it? Because when they had the incident, I thought Max was more screwed than Lando originally, because Max was the one
I
that
just
was
thought
going
it
quite
was Lando's
slowly,
front wing or something.
and Lando, maybe a front wing or whatever. And then I wonder if there'll be a bit of analysis of whether Lando drove a bit too quickly and just absolutely destroyed his car, because you saw those
he
slow
flew
of that
past
right
Max,
rear,
didn't he? Yeah.
and it was like, fully disintegrating. And I do wonder if Lando, just through the heat of the moment and pushing a bit
red
too
mist.
hard, wanting to get back, cost himself some points there as well. That's just an observation. But
Yeah, it could have been.
At the end of the day, he had a puncture just similar to Max. Perhaps rushed back to the pits a bit too soon. But then he did. He rushed because he was ahead of Max, and then he rushed too quickly, I think, and then Max came back past because I think his car was an absolute
His
bit.
car
Because
was
Lando
already-
came crawling in
Yeah.
at the end. So either or, I'm sure that's the last of his worries. Right, let's now look back at our predictions that we made. The championship is currently 29-28.
We are massing this good.
We really are. Biggest good surprise, I went for Fernando Alonso. Fastest lap. Thoughts?
You're going to say that.
Fastest lap, half a point. Sorry, is that not
Where did
biggest?
he finish?
18th. So he beat Logan Sargent and Lando Norris, beat a McLaren, got a fastest
Peter
lap.
McLaren. Lando was leading for most of the race, and Alonso finished ahead.
No, it's going to be a
can't.
0 points. I tried.
I went for Oscar Piastri, and came good at the end. Don't you even question it? That is literally the greatest points haul of his entire career.
Is
You
it?
cannot say that's because he
25,
finished second and got a sprint P2 as well. Like literally, it was for
fair enough.
whatever reason that was the best the best result
I
of
was
his
going to
entire
say maybe
career.
not his best drive, but
No, it wasn't,
Okay,
but-
okay, cool. Biggest flop. I went for Sergio Perez, and yes,
And boy, did he deliver.
has
Actually, it's one of those things where you could. I was ready to be tough on that and be like,
Until
it has to be.
Hulkenberg went
No,
flying.
yeah, it has to be really terrible. And boy, did Perez really make sure you got that one.
Yeah, you're
Because
like,
he didn't. It wasn't even. As people on Twitch were kind of saying, "Oh, well, he's always like having a bad race now." So if he'd have finished behind everyone, but
but
I
he got
don't.
beaten
I
by
literally
Formula
don't know
B,
what is
that's
more
the-
embarrassing: him finishing behind the Haas or finishing behind Verstappen after what happened to Verstappen. Like they're both
The Haas.
pretty.
The Haas. I got a question as well. He's finished 54 seconds behind George Russell, let alone what was going on with Lando and Max.
I know he got a 5-second penalty, but my God.
I mean, okay, or 49, but he still got a 5-second penalty.
And well, I know we're doing predictions. This could be an 8-hour podcast, but this does open the debate of like Red Bull need Perez to be winning that race when Max is off the road, like,
oh yeah,
and he's absolutely nowhere. Yeah, that's another race that Max has lost, and Perez isn't even. Oh, Perez will win this now because the Red Bull is supposedly the best car by an absolute mile, and oh no, he's fighting a Haas. Oh, he's been passed by a Haas.
yeah, not good.
Yeah, it's really bad. Perez
Point for me, and wow, Tommy.
I've never been more.
Happy about
I
your
can't
own
believe
driver
that.
being
Happy that my
involved.
driver. Well, it's funny
Do you wanna say
because
what
I
it
said
is? 'Cause
this.
You haven't
Sorry,
said
Red Bull. I went for Red Bull, which looked absolutely no, and that's a 2-pointer, 100%. People said it in the
2.
Yeah, it's a 2-pointer. there was the top comment on the predictions was that you've gone for Red Bull. It definitely has to be a 2-pointer. There's no way.
Fine, whatever, don't care. That's fine. I thought we were massing this, but go on, you take the
we
lead
are,
then.
actually.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Yeah, fair enough. Well done. Maybe that's what teams should. Maybe that's what teams should be. Actually, is 2 points.
Yeah, teams should be 2 points. I think it has to be.
Okay, well done. Congratulations. Hope you're happy with the money. Sprint poll. I went for Lando Norris. No.
Yep.
What was that?
It was a no.
And you went for Lando as well, which was wrong. Sprint winner. I said no, and then you. I said no. I said Norris.
I said no. Yeah.
And you said
Norris,
no.
I said Norris. My brain is like.
I'm so hot, so hungover. It's crazy. Pole position. I went for Max Verstappen. Yeah, give me that point. Come on.
Well done. I went for Lando. No.
Wrong. Our top three. Third place, I went for Oscar Piastri. God damn it.
I also went for Oscar Piastri.
That is no. Second, I went for Lando Norris.
Oh, which was looking
and
on.
That was going to happen. You went for?
I went for Charles Leclerc, which technically was closer than your prediction. Half a point.
Am I supposed to be non-offended by this? Am I supposed to be happy?
Yeah, I know. It's
Leclerc
like...
was... So I was about to be offended, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. Okay, no points. And then Max Verstappen, I went for the win, which also was on. And then, alas.
And I went for Verstappen, which for some reason I wrote in the sheet that it was Norris, but it definitely was Max because I was going to say, you definitely...
Yeah, that was the one. And that's wrong as well.
Doesn't matter anyway because it's both wrong.
Okay, our one crazy prediction. I said 7 different teams in Q3, and there were 6. So... God damn it.
And I said no rain, no inters, no wet tyres. And, yeah.
Well
I can't
done.
believe that happened. Well, I can because that's just predictable with Formula 1. But we didn't need it, did we? Because we'd have all taken that.
My brain would have exploded had it been raining as well. Like, I don't think I would have been able to process what was going on. And then finally, 3 crazy predictions from you, wonderful lot. First and foremost, P1 Patreon member Nicola, Max isn't on the podium. That is correct. P1 Patreon member Dennis, Carlos and Charles crash with each other. Nope. And P1 Patreon member Maddie, double podium for McLaren. No. Although technically a sprint and Oscar was on twice, wasn't he? Technically, sprint podium, but... Half a point?
Half a point if you want.
I mean, we don't even count the fans, do we? Really? So, I mean, we do count you. We love you, but we don't have you in the tally because that wouldn't be fair. Right, that is it. We're done. I need to lie down. The England game's on right now, actually, isn't it, Tommy?
It is.
So I'm sure we're going to be 4-0 down when I tune in. And what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, actually, a good point that the England game is a good thing to kind of get me
Calm
back
us
down
down.
to
Gets really bored.
a little nap because I'm too excited. That was, and a lot of people, because I'm not a real Max fan, and obviously he's retired from the race, but that is one of those races.
So when did Max retire?
Sorry, not retired. Lost the win. That you just watch it and go, imagine not liking Formula One. Like the moments like that. It is just
beautiful.
Incredible what this sport can do. And, what a season. Like, this season continues to just surprise every single race, it seems, and I'm loving it.
I can't believe it. I can't believe we've just had that race. I was
so ready to be like...
It was going to be a
after quali as well.
Yeah.
When Max was so clear, it was like, we had the question, championship back off, and... I know Max has somehow extended his lead after all that, but just the races are just banging now. Love it.
They really are. Let me check what the championship standings is, just to see if it is still championship back off. I think it will be very much so. 237 plays 156. Oh God, that is 85 points now. Yeah, cool. All right, maybe that's my maths wrong, but either or. That is it. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you very soon. British Grand Prix coming your way. Lots of content as always. We're, of course, going to be there. So that'll be very exciting. We look forward to seeing some of you if you are there as well. And, time for a lie down. Let us know your thoughts on who was at fault and why it was Max Verstappen. And it's funny, actually. I know we're waving. I did a poll on my Twitter. And I think 17% of people thought, 17.5%. And this has 146,000 votes. 17.5% think Norris was at fault for that.
No. That's just ridiculous, isn't it? I can sit here as a Max fanboy saying, just sometimes you just need to be non-biased and like.
Because I did that poll and I posted it and I was like, I mean, is it really a discussion? Thinking it'd be like a 97% Max, but 17.5% is crazy. Like that's a solid amount of people. That
is a lot of people.
Math. That's maybe 20,000 people out of that poll think that Norris was at fault.
That's 20,000 Dutch people think.
Yeah, fair enough. They've all just voted from the grandstands. Right, we're blabbing along. See you soon. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.